Next up, we have Preben.
Thank you. Green markets. I think this is a plus word that everybody wants it. Is it mainstream? Probably not yet, but no doubt it will become mainstream. Probably also with the risk of becoming some greenwashed. But if we want to figure out how it works and how it could work better, I think we might follow the money. And there are some, if you look back, there are some examples. Some of them have already been mentioned. It has been a long day. A lot have been said during the day. But yeah, Denmark has been a world leader, is probably still a world leader in wind energy. Why? By basically leveraged by tariff systems, subsidiaries, and so forth. Germany, probably somewhat the same with solar energy. We heard this morning, there was a session this morning from California that they had a long tradition for tightening regulation on products, environmental standards, and that sort of built up the capacity for industry to deliver better products. And probably Denmark and some Nordic and European countries have had a head start also on some environmental technologies based on tough environmental standards. But times are changed, and I very much subscribe to that. They are changing radically. One driver is, of course, rising energy prices over the long term. That will happen no matter what politicians are doing. But politicians can do lots of things. They are doing lots of things and should be doing lots of things. And let's look at a few facts here. I just the other day received the magazine Cleantech Investment Monitor. It's a U.S. Magazine coming out of the Cleantech Group and Deloitte. It has some. It came out for the second quarter of 2010 with a conclusion that I'll just quote here. On venture capital, that cleantech continues to dominate the overall venture capital market, well ahead of biotech, medical, and software. In the US, it takes about 1/4 of all venture capital investments. And it goes on saying on the corporate cleantech investment announcements that have been there. So they increased significantly in 2010 due to ongoing market recovery and government incentives that more than tripled in the US from 1.2 billion in the first quarter of 2009 to 5.1 billion in the first quarter of 2010. And those mainly goes to wind and solar projects. Now looking at China, they don't need a price on carbon to make things happening, to have incentives on energy efficiency or CO2 reduction. They, as you also indicated, established massive investment in development and deployment of clean technologies. We have an example here, like in Copenhagen, we have Copenhagen Clean Tech Clusters. I guess we will hear more about that during these 2 days here. A very exciting cooperation between, funded by various public institutions, bodies, but with a lot of parties involved, stakeholders around industry and research organizations. Similar things in South Korea, Colorado, California, and these are working together, and there are probably a lot more than that. So lots of things are happening that is supported by politicians. So, and will we see regions, states, local government compete to create attractive conditions for clean tech companies? Yes, I think we will. This may also be somewhat of a danger, even for companies too. And what can politicians do? Of course, they can deal with their effective political framework, like effective product framework. As we heard from, it worked in California. I'm not sure it will work that efficient in Denmark, such a small marketplace, and we're probably not allowed to do that in the EU anyway. But in the EU, yes, it works. We have effective product standards for many things, cars, for example, and it works. It's effective, but it doesn't help 1 or 2 or 3 clean tech clusters in the EU. It helps all the producers worldwide. So we have the South Korean, Japanese, Chinese automakers that are coming into the European marketplace and raising their standards. So it's not always that these product standards, when you raise them, that you actually help local clusters and so forth. Of course, taxes, subsidies and tariffs and so forth can help deploying new technology. But there are limited pockets here as well at governments. Governments can help to support schemes like the Copenhagen Clean Tech Cluster, facilitate these big corporations between, or coordination programs between companies, research institutions and other stakeholders. And I think that would work very well, and I'm looking forward to see the Copenhagen Clean Tech clusters taking really off the ground here. If there would be a few things that I would sort of raise as important when dealing with these clean tech clusters, because they are very helpful to companies. It is in that. Of course, they would deal with small startup companies and bigger companies with, let's say, 10 to 100 people. They would deal with very large companies that are clean tech, like the Westerns and so forth. But they would certainly also deal with the not only clean techs, the biggest one like General Electric and so forth. And when I say that, it is because when we start to communicate progress on these things, on this clean tech, and there are definitions on, of course, what clean tech is, then it is nice to communicate good stories, case stories, best practice, and so forth, and there are a number of initiatives in place to do that. But we need the hard numbers as well. We need to communicate rates, increases in revenue, productivity, employment, and these numbers, I know for Copenhagen Clean Tech clusters, once again, they are starting to facilitate that these numbers can be caught once a year, so we can follow actually what happens. This is very important, I think, because then people will start to listen. You communicate very clearly these numbers. Then politicians, other stakeholders, investors, companies will follow. They will follow the money. So I think this follow the money is a great term here.
Couldn't capture better. And many points made there, but I'm really interested in exploring later the idea of sort of even though clean tech is dominating the VC landscape, we're still quite a gap away at sort of the 150 to 200 billion level of investment compared to the 550 we need. What else do we need to increase there? But the fact that it's dominating the VC conversations, the multi-stakeholder partnerships are getting markets moving with positive global spillovers beyond the local effect is really interesting. And then, as you say, hard numbers, if we can measure it, then we'll manage it. Excellent.